worship planning meeting, wondering why Zechariah got quieted and Mary was allowed to question the angel. Unfortunately, we don't have a video here, so we don't know the tone. We don't know the intent. We all know when someone asks a question because they want to be a part of your creative idea. And when they ask a question because they want to undermine your creative idea. Is anyone with me on this? We all know where the question's coming from, right? Sometimes people try to get their creative with their question, trying to act like they're supportive, but really they're just going to undermine what is happening. Try to find the fault, try to bring the critique. Maybe that was the difference between Zechariah and Mary. Maybe she was seeking more information and the angel knew that she was going to be part of it. I find it really interesting. If you have time after the service, you can look up. There is a stained glass up here of this scene. I'll describe it, or at least I think it is of this scene. You are the scholar of this stained glass. You can teach me differently. This scene is always two, right? Mary and the angel. In this scene, it looks like there are two angels, almost a company of angels, and maybe Elizabeth behind Mary. A company of angels, a company of people. There are a lot of flowers up there to focus on that she was a virgin. We will not be focusing on that this morning. Community of angels speaking to the community of women who will host these precious children. John the Baptist and Jesus. We have another one behind me. We have this artwork up by Scott Erickson. You can see this one as well. The angel upside down, speaking to Mary about this child that will be born. She is wondering what will happen. She is perplexed. How could this be? I want to encourage us that this is an important part of faith. This is a part of our daily walk in the ways of Jesus. We ask questions, that we wonder. We ask questions of each other. We ask questions of God. We do not have all the answers. How to live faithfully in this time and place. We must follow this example of Mary. Be willing to ask that question. But I would encourage us to ask it with the mindset of how I can be involved. I want to be a part of this, God, but this seems too much. It seems too confusing, too difficult. Or we ask and ponder as we step into what God may have for us. It's possible that she was afraid. I'm thinking she was afraid because the angel says, do not be afraid. You don't say do not be afraid unless you sense that someone is fearful. She is afraid of what may come, afraid of what she may be called. You saw the words spoken in that poem, which I don't think are spoken that often in this space, this traditional space. If she really goes forward with this mission, what will she be called by her neighbors? What will people whisper? What will be the TikTok about her? What will be the Instagram posts that will be shared? What will come of her bearing this child out of wedlock? Will she be let go by Joseph? Will she never be able to get married? Will she have to hide away? I even wonder if she feared that she would be stoned for committing adultery. The angel says, do not fear. I believe the fear is a part of our lives of faith. There will be times that we are afraid. We don't think we can step forward. We're not sure if we can do it. There's always these opportunities that God gives us to step into what God is doing in the world. I was reminded of that this morning as I reminded by several history accounts that December 5th is the day that one of many important days in Rosa Parks' life, but it was the day that she decided she was sick and tired of moving the bus in Montgomery. We know that her life is much more than that one moment. It's a lifelong activism. But I would like to, I doubt that there was not, I'm sure there was a little bit of fear in that moment. Fear of the violence that could be done to her. through the violence that come to her family. There are these moments where we are asked to step into God's future. Let us not be afraid when that fear comes. Let us share that with each other. Let's comfort each other in that. Next week, Aaron Stella Johnson is going to come again to share in our sermon time. She's going to share about Mary and Elizabeth coming together. I think that's probably Elizabeth up in that stained glass. Let me know if it's not. I believe one of the reasons that Mary goes to Elizabeth is because of this fear. What will come of her? How do I really believe the impossible of God? We need each other in this life of faith. Mary is thoughtful, she is reflective, and then she steps into the risk. She steps into the adventure that God has for her. We must always reflect, must always ponder before we jump. There is always an invitation to jump into the beauty, to the adventure, following the steps of Jesus. I know that the particularity of this story, that she holds the Christ child, the scene is so otherworldly. Yet I believe in the particulars of this story, we can imagine our own lives, our own day and time, our age, who we are, opportunities we're given. We are all invited to participate in what God is doing in the world. Each day we are offered opportunities. It may not be an angel speaking out loud, maybe the opportunity to serve one another, care for one another, speak God's truth, create community, take new steps to faith. May we step into each moment, following this example of Mary. Thoughtful, reflective, pondering, knowing that the fear will come, but yet the risk is worth it. Amen. Let's take a few moments as we do each week. We lift up any stories, thoughts, or comments as a community. Know that we need all of us as we wrestle with these sacred texts, not just one preacher. Don't worry, I will. Don't worry, I will not call on you, but if you have comments, doubt, question, let's lift those up, knowing that the conversation continues here for a little bit. Then we continue it in our coffee hour down the hallway. We continue it throughout the week. We be a community that is always wrestling with the sacred stories.
I think I was really struck by the contrast between Zechariah's experience, questioning, and then being muted or questioning, and then Mary also questioning, but the experiencing perhaps creative collaboration, thinking in my own life what a joy it is to be part of creative collaboration makes people happen, and as opposed to another thing I want to experience myself, being the know-it-all who also knows better. And just I never considered the contrast between these two stories like that.
Creative collaboration. Very good.
Well, I was struck both last week and this week on the century of these women, just knowing that they don't have power in our society. But here I also was struck by the way that Elizabeth's story of faith being shared and Elizabeth's story of what God is doing in her life being shared, then allows Mary to respond in faith as well. And so for us, how we can, as we share our stories, of where we see God at work, or as a church community where we see God at work, how that prompts others to take steps of faith before being willing to do scarier things. I was also struck by this part a little bit different in that it was really scary. If I was that scared me, but that Angel was like, no, somebody else is going to the thing, you have another person that you're not alone, someone who you can talk to about it. I just love that. Like she wasn't alone, she had somebody not anything, but really experiencing things to put together.
Amen. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the part of there a little bit on Mary's fear around it. Not fear, because she was favored, and actually it reminded me that recently I discovered that there's not only the book of John, but there's first and second, maybe more letters of John. I never knew that actually. But I really have enjoyed the first letter of John, and there's one verse that I want to repeat. And it's 1 John 4:18, and it says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, for fear has to do with punishment, and he who fears is not perfected in love." And so it's just kind of this reminder that a lot of our fears come from, you know that it comes from, but when we're full of love and fully trusting in us, there's no reason to fear.
And for sure. Let's reiterate, hope is always the sacred stories, the sacred text. We spend time reflecting on it, I share, others share, and then these conversations continue. It is not a performance, it is not a thing that just happens once. It's a way that we let it sink deep into our lives, and we be more and more faithful. The scripture comfort us, the scripture challenge us. Amen. We come to the communion table. I'm always overwhelmed by how this space, this table, is influenced by the scriptures that we read. I'm sure that as Mary went to see Elizabeth, we will hear about next week, I'm sure they sat around the table to talk about the possible things that God was doing, possible things that God was about in their lives, in the nation of Israel. My hope is that as we come to this table, that we would be about that, talking about the possible things, maybe the things we hope for, maybe there are things we're waiting for in this Advent season. The sacred table also reminds us of the time that Jesus and his disciples were around tables like this, getting into some good trouble. They would invite people that should have been invited. They would show up at the sinner's table. They would go to those who have been left out of the great feast. This table will be set for all who desire to eat and drink of the goodness, the grace, the forgiveness of God. Please join me to read the reference here. The bread of heaven is here, leading us into life. We draw strength from the bread of life. The cup of blessing is at hand, bringing us salvation. We find life in the cup of salvation. Eat and drink, for Christ is here, offering us eternal life. Thanks be to God. So on that final week, that final night, where the Passover meal, Jesus took the bread, broke it, the sign of his broken body, So you do this in remembrance of me. Hopefully you had sesame seeds falling all over it as well. Beautiful rainy. He also took the cup at the end of the Passover meal, one of the many cups of that meal, pouring it out as a sign of new covenant. So do this also in remembrance of me. This table is set. We're going to do a little bit different during Advent. Sometimes as a pastor, you hold all of the balls that you are juggling. Sometimes you drop a few. Anyone drop a few at work this week? I did. I dropped one. So our worship planning team, one thing that we had hoped is all Advent season, that we would come forward to bring our offering. So for the next 2 weeks, I'll invite you to do this as well. We'll bring our offering of tithes and offerings forward. We are also going to collect socks for our food ministry to be passed out, as well as gently used jackets. I would love for you right now to be thinking of a gently used jacket that is in your closet that you have not worn. You can bring and share. They will go out as many volunteers take meals from here and seek those who are most desolate, most distant from care and need. The table is set as you come forward. You give your offering. I think only God, she was part of the worship plan team, brought socks, so she will bring socks forward. But come and take bread. Come and take the cup. Come and expect God to meet you in these elements. Please bring them back to your pew, and then we will all take them together. It's a way of reminding us that we're one body. Would you like? God, let us take the bread of life. Let's drink together. Let's pray. Emmanuel, God with us. In gratitude for the mercy you have shown our ancestors in faith, and thanksgiving for your holy covenant with all your people. We offer these gifts and offerings. Amen. A few quick announcements of community life. I'd like to invite you all to a concert Friday nights. Alessandra and the Oakland School of the Arts will be in this space performing. Get that right? It's right here. Come and join in. There will be lots of people here. It'll be warmer. So we will fill up the space. All the families will be here. So please join us. Faith in Action night walks, part of the ceasefire strategy against gun violence in Oakland. Our group is going to join on December 17th, Friday nights. Let myself or Susie Nadomi know if you'd like to come and participate with us. This is just one little part of that strategy, but it is an important part where communities of faith can join in with this important work to decrease the gun violence in our city. I have a few more of the Advents. Getting people the devotionals, the Honest Advent. The artist Scott Erickson, who did all these images, also wrote some devotionals based on that. A few left, if you would like to be reading with us through this season of Advent, helping us reflect upon what God is doing. Please join as you are able, stand, and we will sing our sending hymn, number 105, People of Peace. Please receive God's blessing as God sends us to be the church in the world. As we await the coming of the promised one, may your love and knowledge and insight overflow, that you may live in peace and harmony with all beings, in glory and praise.
Thank you.